You can hear me.
What number is it?
It's toward the end, Martha. It's
Oh, okay.
11.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here with us. We're coming to you bright and sunny, beautiful Hilo Day. Wish you all could be with us here. Beautiful day, beautiful riding from the airport. Going to get set ourselves up. We're here at the University of Hawaii at Hilo. And let's see who's with us today. Martha Cornay. Here. Ron Ibarra here. And myself are physically present. Mike Town, are you here?
Here, happily
Okay.
here.
Ted, are you here?
I'm here.
Morning, Ted. Thank you for being here. Hilo wish you could be here. With the roll call and all commissioners present at this time, I want commissioners, if you could at this time, take a look at our meeting minutes from Thursday, October 19th, 2023, and I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So move.
Second. It's been moved by Mike Town and seconded by Ronald Ibarra that the minutes for the Thursday, October 19th, 2023 commissioners meeting be accepted at this time. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say same. Motion passed. Thank you, everyone. At this time, we'll look at item number 4 on the agenda, public testimony. I just want to remind everyone if we can keep our testimonies to 2 minutes or less, and specifically stay on within the agenda. If you have any comments you'd like to make at this time, I'll look upon for digital hands or for real hands when you make your on that, and then we'll go live with the people who are here in the auditorium with us at Hilo. Any public comments at this time? Okay.
Can we see hands? No hands? How surprising.
I'll move on to the where are they going to present, right here?
I guess so, we just.
Okay. Is there anyone here publicly that wants to make some testimony on the agenda? Thank you. Thank you, Hilo. We'll wait for the end of the commission meeting, see if there's any more public testimony at this time. Commissioners, as we move on the agenda. Public safety, are you present at this time? Okay, not seeing any representation from the public safety. We'll skip item number 5. And number 6, commissioners, we're looking at the budget right now. You should have something from the packet that we sent to you. So if I do some historical things for you folks to think as we approach the 2024 legislative session. Last year, there seems to have been conversation between the House, who supported the budget request that we had put in, and the Senate, that resulted in basically no one able to come to any kind of conclusion regarding our budget, and we were not funded. So basically, we all know because we were not funded, we can't pay our staff, or we can't have staff. Most of the budget associated with the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight is for our staff, their office, and for the trips that we go to do our work as mandated by the law. So the governor stepped in and funded, currently, the money that we have now is given to us by the governor's office. So that's why we're alive. With that thought in mind, as we move forward, this next legislative session is gonna be a real battle for us to try and go into the legislature to convince, them that the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight is a much needed entity, in order to make the changes necessary within, the Department of Public Safety. So there's gonna be needs to be, a very huge focus on getting, the legislators to understand who we are, what we were doing, what our vision is, so that we can get the funding that is required. We are asking, in addition to the current staff that we have, for 2 more investigators, 1 for the jails and 1 for the prison. If we can get that passed, and we can increase our staffing, as well as our ability to go out and follow up with many of the recommendations and things that are happening. Right now, in terms of investigations, we're not as strong as we should be because we lack the staff to follow up on the investigations. These are all the allegations coming from within the facilities, from staff, from offenders, and from families. Yeah, so we want to be able to have staff so that we can follow up on their complaints. We're putting in a request for $690,000. Yeah, so with that being said, is there any comments at this time, commissioners? We'll speak more on the subject as we get into the legislative priorities, but I wanted to make it clear that we'll be in, and those of individuals who are here listening to us, that 2024 legislative session will be a fight for our life in terms of our staff. And for those of you who may not know, we've only had staff since 2022. It's only for
Mark, I got a question. What's the next stage in this budget process? Is this budget something we will submit through the administration, or do we go directly to the legislature?
I believe as we are personally attached to the Attorney General.
To the administration.
And then, yeah, so it will go through the administration, Ted. We're trying to get them aware, because they're new, we're new, and that, this is about the time of the year, if you can remember, when the departments are making their, or presenting their budget to DNF. And so I've been waiting to hear from the AGs when their presentation to Budget and Finance will take place. That will be recommendations for the governor.
Kristen has just joined us. She's on the mainland right now. And Kristen, can you share what you've been informed about the budget and the governor's position generally for the state?
Yes. Yes. So the governor's office is very supportive of the commission. But we have been told, I think all state agencies have been told, to really limit what we're requesting, because of Maui. Maui's obviously the priority for the legislature this session. As far as where our budget stands right now, we did submit it through BNF. BNF has cut it down a little bit, and so I did appeal. That appeal goes to the governor's office. And then after that, once, the governor will make his decision, and then whatever he decides, that's what will go to the legislature. So we're very hopeful, but we definitely need support this legislative session.
When you said BNF cut it down a little bit, what they cut it down by?
So they removed one of the investigators. They cut our travel in half, for out of state and for in state, which would limit our abilities to go to the facilities. And then they also had cut down the salary requests by quite a bit. I don't remember the exact percentage. So we are going to appeal all of that and see how it turns out.
So it sounds like the significant cut that they did, not just a minor cut.
It was pretty significant. Yeah, when you look at the whole budget, it was pretty significant. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, did that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm okay. I know where we are.
I have a Zoom also.
So that's the announcement I wanted to make in terms of where we are with our budget. This is gonna be the second year that we're coming in with an oversight coordinator to help us make those, or be part of those discussions with the Attorney General as well as BNF. And of course, with the governor when we make our appeals. So, it's a step-by-step process. As we move along, we'll know what else we have to do when we strategize for our legislative advocacy. No further question on the budget. I'm gonna move on to the legislative priorities. Yeah, same thing. So. There should have been a handout that you got from the staff or emailed concerning our legislative priorities. In the past, it's been very, we've been learning prior to Kristen, how best to be advocates for bills that were being presented by either the public or different committees in regards to or aligned with the Oversight Commission's mandates. Yeah, in terms of population control, in terms of reentry, et cetera. So coming into this legislative session, it's really going to be, as I just previously said, a battle for the budget. Yeah, the current budget, as you all know, expires on at the end of June 30th, 2024. The current budget expires, and the doom and gloom is that we lose our staff if we can't get budget. Yeah, so what we're going to talk about now is really what we're going to, as a commission, going to specifically focus on to achieve our goals of getting our budget reestablished. So that's one that we talked about, that 693,000 that we're going to be advocating. Secondly, last year Martha wrote some bills, or a couple of bills that talk.
I drafted them at the request of the commission.
Right.
So one was to make sure that the oversight coordinator had unfettered access at any time to all the correctional facilities. That, I'm doing this off the top of my head, and my head is spinning. We just came back from the mainland yesterday. I'm still spinning from my trauma so much. Chris, did you remember the other two parts of the bill? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yes, so one part was extending the oversight coordinator's term from 2 years to 4 years.
Yes.
And then another part was allowing us to go into private session to talk specifically about investigations. So to allow the commission to meet without the public in order to go through those specific things. And then you're right, the access piece as well. Just because right now, the way that the bill is written, it says during an investigation, the commission or the oversight coordinator can enter at any time. But we want to make that a little more clear and broad that, regardless of an investigation, the oversight coordinator can go anytime.
Thank you.
So that's one, those are bills that we're gonna go and push for. And then the third one will be Ted, the bill that you wrote up on offender reentry.
Yeah, I wrote it up because I was of the understanding that people were looking for a bill that will help reduce the population. And it's I don't know if this is an exercise in futility, but what the bill does is it takes different parts of the law relating to parole. First of all, and there's several parts of this where the department simply is not complying at all anyway. And so it's, let me just walk through what I try to do. Number one, the law requires that the department create a comprehensive reentry plan.
Ted, are you still there? You might be having connection problems. I don't know if you can tell, George.
His mic is on. Ted's somewhere out there in the ether. You have to chat, he's chatting. There's one chat. He must be reconnecting.
I'll wait till you reconnect, but there's a question in the chat. Looking at Senate Bill 455, House Bill 1132, Senate Bill 454, and House Bill 861. That was introduced last year.
Can you repeat those?
Senate Bill 455, House Bill 1132, Senate Bill 454, and House Bill 861.
It's all on the internet, all these documents that we're showing are on the internet, so you can find.
No, this one isn't. This is an internal one.
Oh, okay, this
So-
one is,
And
sorry,
I think the two bills we would be looking at are the first two, and those were the ones that Martha drafted. So that's Senate Bill 455 and House Bill 1132. And those include the three components that Kristen shared a few moments ago.
now remember, this session is a new 2-year session, it's just beginning, so these bills are no longer alive.
Yeah.
Right, these bills have died.
And so let me go real quick as we wait for Ted's come back. We're looking at in
Oh, wait a
this,
minute, I lied, no, they are still alive.
Yeah.
They are still alive, we're going into the second bit. We're going into the second.
so Ted's bill is looking at expanding reentry and limiting lengths of imprisonment. So we're looking at making amendments to several statutes, including the Offender Reentry Office, the Offender Reentry System Plan, the return of out-of-state inmates, procedures for determining minimum term of imprisonment, Hawaiian Paroling Authority, responsibilities and duties, operations, records, report staff, committed persons parole, how initiated and granted, and parole when. So this is the new bill that we will be introducing at the legislature and that we will be focused on. So that's the third area of focus for the legislative session.
Should we go, give a little more information on these, because it's highlighted, on these changing.
If you want to.
So first, he's recommending what he was talking about before he got disconnected, amending 353H 2.5 for the reentry office. So to assist offenders to fulfill the requirements for their comprehensive reentry plans, ensure that reentry plans are developed, provide the Hawaii Paroling Authority with comprehensive reentry plans prior to fixing the minimum term. So it would be available to HPA when they're setting that. The second is to amend chapter 353H-3 offender reentry system plan, and to the extent practicable, this is how it would be amended, to the extent practicable, provide appropriate programs at facilities located in facilities which are geographically located in or near the county in which the individual will, will be transitioned back to their community. And that's how it's supposed to be. Inmates are supposed to be released to their home community. It's by law. If you come from the Big Island, you're supposed to be released on the Big Island unless you get a waiver for that. It's not true for Oahu. Oahu inmates other people can be released on Oahu. Also amending 353H-7, return of out-of-state inmates. This is an existing statute. And again, he's asking that he's incorporating that reentry plans should be prepared for the mainland inmates. And it will be in accordance with 353H 2.5, which we just discussed. The next one is amending the sentencing code 706-669, procedure for determining minimum term of imprisonment. Many of you may be aware that already there's a task force that is considering whether the paroling authority should be doing this or not, but there are, he's just saying with the existing law to add to that, that a complete copy of the prisoner's comprehensive reentry plan be provided as required in chapter 353H. Then last is for the Hawaii Patrolling Authority, 353-62, Hawaii Patrolling Authority responsibilities, duties, operation records, reports, and staff, adding to that, that as indicated, that the patrolling authority staff is patrolling authority is to determine the time at which parole should be granted. And he wants to add that to that section as indicated by the individual's fulfillment of the requisite elements of the comprehensive reentry plan. And there's more. 353-64, committed persons paroled. So these are people who are being released and saying that, let's see, I'm reviewing this for the first time, so I'm sorry for being hesitant. But to ensure that the inmate has completed the requisite elements of the comprehensive reentry plan or other elements of the comprehensive reentry plan. And they have to take into consideration, if you're not available, it cannot be held against the inmate. That program that was recommended for them was not available to them. And then for 353-68, parole, how initiated and granted. He wants to amend section A to add the phrase, provided that if a prisoner has satisfactorily completed the elements of the comprehensive reentry plan, except those elements that are to be completed when the prisoner is on parole, the prisoner shall be released on parole prior to the service of their minimum service. So saying that there would automatically be a reduction in the minimum if they have completed all the elements of their plan. He also has down here 353-69 parole when, but I don't see any amendment to that, so I'm not quite sure what it is expecting.
So that's the third strategic goal for our legislative advocacy next year. And the fourth is the Women's Prison Project last year put out HB 1235 and Senate Bill 1470 to expand the cameras coverage and implement body-worn cameras by correctional staff at the Women's Community Correctional Center. We asked that be expanded into the other facilities system-wide. So I believe that bill died last year, or
it's still alive.
It's still alive, and so we're going to be supporting cameras in our correctional system as well as body cameras. Yeah. So those are the four areas, commissioners, in terms of our 2024 legislative priorities. Our budget, Martha's bill, Ted's bills, and then the cameras coverage. And any further questions? Ted, did you get back on? Let's see.
Yeah, he just said, he sent a text saying that he lost connection.
Mark, I had a question.
Go ahead, Mike.
I don't know who to give this to, but maybe Kristen. Kristen, there's a squabble or a healthy discussion elsewhere on the continent and here. When do police turn on their body cams? They put on when they get on the scene or as soon as they get the call, and it's a timing thing. It's a huge issue. We have body cams in our ACOs have body cams. I'm sure that they welcome them because it shows the truth. Do you know when they go on?
No, there's no movement for, not sure that the public safety has any body cams at this time. We don't have that in Hawaii.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with any of the facilities having body
Okay,
cameras.
then we really got to pay attention to that because it's a issue I want to get ahead of the curve on. I'm not quite sure what the right answer is, but it's an issue on in the counties and with HPD and also with the feds. So let's just be aware of it.
Yes. Thank you, Mike. No further question on our legislative priorities or comments. We'll go ahead and move forward, and I'll ask Kara.
Yes.
Kara's going to come here and present to us the reentry and diversion strategic plan at this time. So Since she started till today, her one soul was to go out into the community. She's been to every island to learn about reentry and what they're doing, all the different agencies and what they do. And she has put on a report that we put on the website
Yep.
that you can find on the website. And I'm gonna allow her to present to us her findings.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Mark, real quick before you guys jump in, I'm sorry. For the legislative priorities, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Are all of the commissioners in agreement that those are the key bills that will be focused on moving forward?
So you want to make this an action item that we should take a vote on?
I think so. What do you think, Martha?
We might as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's already presented in writing form.
So I move that we accept the recommendations of the staff as to our legislative priorities.
Second,
It's been moved by Martha Cornet and seconded by Mike Tao that the legislative priorities for 2024, a report as written by
As presented by.
as presented by Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission staff, be accepted at this time. Any further comments? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say same.
Hey,
We have, just so for the record, Ted, we lost connection with Ted, but we do have quorum.
and I'm trying to communicate with Ted as to what steps we're taking, so I'm letting him know we just voted on this.
Motion passed. Thank you, everyone.
Great, okay. Good morning, everyone. For those of you I haven't met yet, my name is Kara Kupani and I serve as the Reentry and Diversion Oversight Specialist here on the commission. Everyone knows Kristen is still here. You can see her online. Don't worry. Don't sound out the alarm. She's just on the mainland. She'll be back. So George, can you put up the PowerPoint and also put a link in the chat to the actual strategic plan? Great. So when I came on board here at the commission, we had an agency-wide strategic plan that Kristen and the team developed. And so what I did is I looked at these 4 priority areas from our agency-wide strategic plan. And I started thinking about how reentry and diversion, how our reentry and diversion work, in addition to our mandate, would play into the organizational strategic plan. So I developed this specific strategic plan. Where can we go to the next slide? Thanks. Okay, so this is just a brief agenda. This will be a brief presentation, but if you want to learn more, the full report will be in the chat and also posted on the website. So really the goal of this document is to share how the commission will look at the reentry and diversion work, how we will approach this work. And so today I'll go over briefly our mandate, some guideposts that we'll be using, the strategic priorities, both agency-wide, but I'll be focusing on the reentry and diversion piece, and then we'll follow at the end, so. Okay, so I'm briefly going to go through this. This is our mandate. So the commission has 4 core functions that's outlined in our mandate here for Hawaii Revised Statute 353L. So I'm going to go through these, like I said, briefly, oversee the state's correctional system, investigate complaints at correctional facilities, and facilitate a correctional system transition to a rehabilitative and therapeutic model. I know those are 3 separate pieces, but that is the first core function of the commission's work. The second piece here is establish maximum inmate population limits for each facility and formulate policies and procedures to prevent the population from exceeding the capacity. So this is really the basis for our diversion work and also our reentry work too. The third core function here, so the 3 and 4 are related. They are related to our monitor and review and working with the Department of Public Safety in reviewing the comprehensive offender reentry program. So that's specifically what this section of the mandate relates to. reviewing this statute and also offering recommendations to public safety, HPA, and the legislature. And finally, this is related here. Ensure, and this is a really important piece of our work here, ensure that the comprehensive offender reentry system under this chapter 353H is working to provide timely release of people in custody on their minimum term, when their minimum terms have hit. So that's our mandate. So I'm kind of building up here. I'm just providing a little bit of background. So that's our mandate. And from that mandate, Kristen and the team developed these 4 strategic priority areas. So these are our agency-wide priorities. And they fall directly from our mandate, as you'll be able to see. So oversight is one of them. This is overseeing the correctional system, investigating complaints. Rehabilitation is the second piece, and that's really this transition to the rehabilitative and therapeutic model, the population limits piece, and finally reentry. And as you can see here, reentry is really a large part of our mandate, and that's why it was really important to us to define what our work would look like in this area, both reentry and then also diversion. Okay, so what I wanted to share here is, so we went through the mandate and also the strategic priorities for the agencies. In the spirit of transparency, I wanted to share what our guideposts will be. So these are going to be standards and principles that we'll use to make inquiries and to really complete our reentry and diversion work. So we're going to be looking at applicable legislation here, related to reentry and diversion, and then also other legislative measures. So there's several House and Senate concurrent resolutions that will relate to reentry and diversion. We'll be looking at those. We'll also be utilizing as a measure standards for corrections. So the American Correctional Association is nationwide known as, I would say, the standard for corrections. And we're talking like baseline standards. There are federal standards and then just generally accepted practices, but we'll be looking at those too, looking at organizational policy and program statements for different stakeholders. And then finally, as we think about facilitating to a new model, a rehabilitative and therapeutic model, we're going to be looking at HCR 85 Task Force report, Native Hawaiian Justice Task Force report, recommendation and action plan for a new jail, and then just overall looking at best practices and an ongoing study of what's going on in other jurisdictions, and also best practices in different fields too. Okay, so here are the strategic priorities as they relate to reentry and diversion. So this first priority area is rehabilitation, and this relates to facilitating a correctional system transition to a rehabilitative and therapeutic model. So as we all know, this is a huge shift from the current model we have to this different model of corrections, and it will have to involve a full perspective change in terms of how we're looking at people in custody and how we're addressing their needs, their issues, and things that are going on. So the first big piece of this work is identifying a correctional system-wide needs assessment. So we'll be looking at people in custody and really looking at not so much the risk, but their needs. So here we'll be looking at things that we know result in incarceration. So a lot of these things were talked about at the Breaking Cycle Symposium. So we'll be looking at things like history of trauma, education levels, income, housing, health, mental health. So these components we know also lead to incarceration, but we also know when these needs are met, they lead to a healthy, stable, more fulfilling lives. So that's a really key piece here in terms of figuring out what people need and how the system can function in this rehabilitative and therapeutic way. We really need to understand who we have in a deeper way than what we know now. So that's the first part of this work. And then a second really essential piece, and not ordered in terms of importance, just the second part that I'll discuss here, is looking at how people are moving through the system. So we're going to focus here on reentry and reentry planning, And from the moment someone enters jail till they're released, how are people moving through and how can we improve that? How can we improve movement? How can we improve services? How can we improve treatment overall so that there is more effective movement through the system? Because we all know that without this piece, this transition cannot happen. So those are the two main components of the rehabilitation priority area. So then population limits, this is our second priority area here. And for this, we'll really, I mean, we know that we have overcrowded jails here. We know that we've reported on that. Everyone is aware of that. So in this strategic priority area, we really want to be collaborating and working with stakeholders to safely reduce the jail population. So we want to collaborate and work with partners to further current efforts, offer different ideas and strategies for additional diversion and deflection efforts. And here we want to tie this to that system-wide needs assessment. So if we know the needs of the people who are currently incarcerated, we can tie that to efforts or to service provision before someone even touches the system. So that's another component of why that needs assessment is important. And we'll also here be looking at any legislative efforts that will decrease populations, decrease the incarcerated population. And we can report on that, offer recommendations in that same area also. Okay, finally, or not finally, so this is our next piece here, and this is on reentry. And so as I shared before, reentry is 50% of our mandate. And so this objective is really related to the comprehensive offender reentry program. So here our duties are clearly outlined in our mandate and also included in the 353L, the Comprehensive Offender Reentry System statute. So we're really going to be looking at that statute, what's happening, what's not, highlighting best practices, and offering recommendations for how we can, for areas where they're out of alignment, where there is a lack of alignment, how we can move back into alignment. So we'll be collaborating with partners for that. The second piece of this is to make sure that timely release is happening. So we want to make sure that when someone's minimum hits, all of the programs that they need to be released at their minimum have been offered to them. So we'll be looking into that too. We'll be looking here, we'll be utilizing that system-wide assessment to see that if the programs that are offered are also meeting the needs of the people in custody. And then finally, our last priority area is oversight, overseeing the state's correctional system and having jurisdiction over investigating complaints. So I think as most people are aware, we don't have the ability to investigate individual complaints at this time. And that is because we simply don't have the resources, but we do have the ability to receive complaints. And so this is part of this work, is we will be receiving complaints and identifying priority areas for different stakeholders and partners. So this is objective 2 here. So we hear from people in custody, staff, the community, family members, and we want to leave a piece of our work open to what's most important to people most impacted by the system and those with the greatest opportunity to change it. And also within this priority area, we'll be offering facility-specific reports. So we'll go to different facilities and look at what is happening in terms of reentry, in terms of furlough, in terms of programming at the facilities, and on an individual level, offer recommendations, report on our findings, highlight best practices that we find that we have there. And then finally, this last objective here, we really want to be a resource during this transition. So this is a really big shift. And so we will be looking at applicable policies and procedures, handbooks, different staff training related to reentry, and offer our insights and feedback on those topics as well. So that is an 11-page document in hopefully 10 minutes. But really, this is a living document, so we see this as the first draft of this, and it will be updated as we learn more, as we talk to more people. I really want to thank the commission and Kristen and George for the opportunity to serve in this role, and every single person who made the commission's work possible. And I really look forward to working with you all in further actualizing our work, especially as it relates to reentry and diversion.
Thank you. I was gonna ask the commissioner. You did a good job. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, guys.
Hey, can I ask a
any
question?
comments?
Can I ask a question?
No,
Not at this time.
not during the meeting. At the end of the meeting, you can ask questions.
Thank you.
I want to go over the population limits section of what we need to do, because I want you folks to understand that we first have to establish the maximum inmate populations. We currently have that from a 2001 report that was created, that had created on the Corrections Population Management Commission, had the same mandate. They just took that mandate and incorporated it into this one. When we did that analysis, it was based on space and infrastructure only. And I think as we revisit, if you look at that report, you won't find things like management cells. So it doesn't say how many holding cells they have, how many cells are in, or how many beds are in the infirmary. I think we need to include that also in it. And I think we really need to start looking more closely. If we said how much space was available for education, but not really what had to go into that space to make it possible. So as we look at that, we need to revisit the way we do that analysis. And we get to that point that we're ready to revisit it, we'll be asking you folks for some comments on that also. But thank you.
Mike, do you have any comments?
No, I guess my one question is, and it's maybe tangentially relevant, Kara, so often I've mentioned how the people max out at Halava, they go stand under the plumeria tree, they don't have a discharge plan. Is this going to address that?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first priorities that we've identified in the plan is that system mapping work, Commissioner Town. So we're really going to look at how people are moving and looking at why people are maxing out, and then offering recommendations on how we can get a more optimal movement where people are, starting at a higher security level and then stepping down to a minimum, to a furlough, and then community placement. So yeah, with a proper reentry plan and services.
Because they leave with a black plastic bag, puka t-shirts. They don't have a backpack often. I asked because I would go in there as a parole commissioner and I go chat with them, think about what's going on. And to me, that's malpractice by us, all of us, the system. They should have decent clothes. They don't have to have Gucci bags, but at least a backpack, and maybe just because they max out doesn't mean that those are the ones that need the most help, in my view.
Correct, Mike. Ted, are you still back online? If not,
I'm
Ron,
updating him again what we're doing.
you have any
I'm back.
comments?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I just want to express some concerns, and I already told Kara about this. Number one, I think it's a great plan, but I think if the department were to come up with this plan, I'd be absolutely thrilled, but we're not the department. Our job is oversight, not to perform the reentry. Number two, I think the plan misses the key element in the reentry process. The one key element is what I call the correctional programming process, how an inmate gets from point A to point B to point C, all the way down to where they get on parole, and we can say, good job, you're off parole. And that starts with the RAD unit at Halava, where they're supposed to do educational vocational assessments, the LSI, perform a um, security classification, etc., and come up with a package. And this is where the program plan is supposed to be developed. I think if we don't address that, you know, in a separate report, we talked about all these social workers we want to help Halava get. It won't matter because all the inmates will be in Arizona anyway. So we've got to address that. And the problem is now. And we can't wait for a plan to be accepted or anything. So my question is, how much of this is actionable and what action can we take? We know the laws, we know the policies. You know, we can start demanding data from the department immediately. And I think if we don't start addressing these things at the legislature next year, we miss an opportunity. So these are things, you know, like, you know, when I heard a few months ago about the number of paroles denied in Arizona because programming was not available. Substance abuse treatment, for example, is not available to the inmates there. And you go to a cash box and you see 15 inmates, you know, it's pathetic. And I think we've got to address that immediately because inmates are getting hurt now. So anyway, those are my concerns. And Karen and I had a lengthy meeting yesterday to talk about that.
Yeah, I hear you. I definitely understand Commissioner Sky, and I really do plan to incorporate those pieces into this work. So for me, the strategic plan provides the priority areas and the objectives, and then there are specific projects and reports that will relate to them, and that priority area on the system mapping, I plan to include all of that in that, and that will be one of the first projects that we really take on in this role. And I agree there that is core to this working overall reentry. So yes, and I did meet with the Department of Public Safety in full transparency. I wanted to share this plan with them. And I met with Sana and Monica and also Frank Young, and I shared this plan with them, and I am hopeful and have every reason to believe that we'll be able to work together on this. I mean, the commission worked together, and then I'm grateful, at least at this point, for the support of public safety in this venture.
I'm sorry, Jari wasn't also at that meeting because she's the program administrator. I wonder if she was doing something else that day.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a little impatient. You know, why can't we use this plan to start demanding data now? For example, the law says all inmates on the mainland need to be returned to Hawaii at least 1 year prior to the parole date. Why can't we ask the department now, of all the inmates who've been returned to Hawaii, to say in the past 2 years, just to pick a number, how many of them were met this legal requirement? How many inmates, for example, have a comprehensive reentry plan versus how many don't? So I think this is a really good plan. It forms a great basis for us, but I think we can start taking action now.
Yeah,
Our job is oversight, and oversight means shine a light.
Right.
I think from my point of view, Ted, a lot of what she has put together is really, if we can get public safety to follow some kind of structure in their transformation and what they're going through right now, hopefully we can kickstart a reentry program so that so it flows. Right now it doesn't flow. Yeah, and people are stuck. Yeah. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And in terms of the information request, that priority area where the reentry priority area, that specifically relates to that mandate and the comprehensive offender reentry system. And that's exactly what I plan to do with that report, is just really go down straight through that mandate and request information on what's going on as it relates to each separate section. So that is how I envisioned the report on that piece, and that's a priority.
Like I said, I think I'm impatient because we've been talking about this problem since the commission started practically. And you know, I think we need to see some action. And I would really like to focus on the RAD process and what happens during the RAD process and what kinds of like, what did they call it, Mike? IPP or PPO or something like that. They're supposed, every inmate's supposed to come out of the RAD process with a program plan. I'd like to see someone go in and take a look at how many really have these plans and what the quality of these plans are, and how they compare to the comprehensive reentry plan that's required by law. So anyway, that's my piece.
Thanks, Kate.
And we also need to be getting copies of the department's policies on reentry, so we know what they even say themselves what they're supposed to be doing.
Yep.
Judge Tom has his hand up.
Mike,
I have the talking stick.
Yes.
Mark. Bob Merce is in Japan on a well-earned vacation with the family, but I'm going to try to channel him and also my experience. Our kupuna, many of them have long sentences and long minimums and long maximums, and they get older, and then their ability to function gets less and less. And I am overwhelmed many times that public safety needs to do a whole lot more. They do for certain ones, but Kara, I want you to be real aware, and I'm sure you've already addressed it, that people prison ages you quickly. People over 50, over 60, over 70, we need to address them, and it has to be I call it prison yoga. They have to learn how to flex a little bit, and the system needs to flex. Does any of this address that? Because I share Ted's impatience, if that's the right word, or concern.
Yeah, so certainly we'll be looking at different populations and their needs. When we think about addressing someone's needs, that will be different based on the population, based on their age, based on many different factors. So certainly we'll be looking at what needs are in different age groups, different ethnicity, different gender, and if those needs are being met, that'll definitely be incorporated in the needs assessment. And also throughout, we'll be looking at that.
But I'm particularly interested in the kupuna, the older ones, because it's a dramatic change. And I hope that's built in at the RAD, like what Mark was saying, but and they change dramatically. I'm hearing there are some that can't even, they're not vertical, they're horizontal, and they're wiped out. But public safety has to be real flexible in that, and so do we.
Yeah, and I think that'll be addressed both on an agency-wide level, and then we'll be looking at reentry specific too.
Thank you.
Carol, like Ted says, I'm concerned that this commission is doing actual work. Public safety should be doing the actual work, and we should be reviewing what they do. So maybe I'm misunderstanding your presentation. When you say assessment, are you going to do the actual assessment and then give it to public safety to implement, or are you going to review what public safety had assessed and
make recommendations?
Yes, and make recommendations.
I'm going to request specific data that I think will be helpful for us in determining the needs of the population. So my idea was that we would put together the information that we would like to see and request that information from public safety, and then I'm planning to compile it after we receive it.
So are we doing the assessment versus public safety doing the assessment first, and we review what they're doing?
that's the plan. I haven't seen, so, and I don't know that a system-wide assessment exists from public safety. If it does, I'm happy to look at it, but I haven't seen any information that really looks at the different characteristics that we want more information.
And, you know, when we review something, the person or agency that we review should have notice of what we will be reviewing, so that, you know, we don't review something that we disagree in total. And they'll say, well, we disagree with your standard.
Right.
And so how are we gonna get together to agree that this is what we will be looking at, this is what we'll be expecting?
Well, that I think is what I really wanted to start when I met with public safety last week. I shared this with them, and I shared what I would be looking at, and did you say something? Sorry.
No.
Oh, okay, so that's the conversation that I started last week.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
I because, you know, we've been visiting these correctional facilities. We come up with our recommendation, specific, and I've been noticing, you know, they come back, says, well, that's not gonna work, and, you know, we have this in effect. So basically, for me as a commissioner, I raise the problem. What are you doing about it? We agree.
And often they say nothing.
Yeah, or nothing, so, you know, unresolved to resolve, rather than what your recommendation is, we got this, and so what we end up doing is arguing which recommendation should be followed, and when the issue should be, here's the problem. You have a solution, and I may not suggest a solution because it's your Juliana. And I will just say, well, no, I don't see how that's gonna work. You find something else, or if you want to talk about it, fine. But I think that's what, you know, public safety is concerned about, is us micromanaging their facility.
Yeah, so I do not see my role as implementing at all. I see really as my role as looking, gathering data, gathering information, seeing what is going on, comparing that to the guideposts that we have there, the different standards that are generally accepted in corrections, and then offering recommendations and solutions that specifically relate to those, relate to that, and that I think can actually make a difference.
Yeah, I would agree. And my last question is, so the guideposts or what you gonna be following, have they been sent to public safety for comments?
Yeah, I shared this, I shared the
And
whole.
what were the response? They agreed that, yes, that looks like the standard, and
Well, I didn't ask for like a sign off.
no, I'm comment, I'm not.
No, there was no pushback. I mean, those are, you know, the standards that we're looking at are really generally accepted, like, you know, American Correctional Association or federal standards. And so I didn't receive any pushback. No.
Okay, yeah, I just wanna make sure that we're all working off this on the same page.
Yeah,
Right,
Yeah.
standards or okay, thank you.
yeah.
Following up with what Ron is saying, but we're, I think, a more concrete example, we are well aware that our minimum security facilities are not being utilized, that they're about 50% full. That is very much a step in rehabilitation and getting released. And so these are the things I think also that Ted is pointing out. We have the opportunity to go to the legislature and saying, we reviewed all this stuff, this is the information we have. We're also looking at inmate classification, how many people are minimum security stuck on the mainland. My understanding is that in the past, if you scored minimum on the mainland, they automatically bumped you back up to medium because they didn't want minimum people in the mainland facility. You know, it makes no sense at all. And the second thing is here in Hawaii, you know, at Halava, how many minimum security inmates do we have? And why are there any there? Because we have empty beds. So it's those concrete examples that we can bring to the public and the legislature.
Sure, and I see all of those, you know, Kristen and I look through the rosters every single month. We have a whole bunch of data on our website that shows where we're overpopulated, where we're underpopulated. What I don't want to do here is a piecemeal system-wide analysis. That's why I really want to look at the classification. I do want to look at RAT, how people are moving through it, and really offer concrete solutions. Hey, this is what we're seeing. This is how I think we can move more people.
Our legislature starts the third Wednesday in January. And I've already talked to Kristen that I'm gonna be working on something with classification and not using our beds appropriately. So that's a piece we can take now.
Sure.
You know, what you're talking about sounds like it would take a year or two to get it all together.
No, I'm not talking, so when I just think that I really want to be informed so that if there's any pushback, we can say, no, we looked at this, we have the data, we did the review. So I'm talking, you know, like, this is starting next
And
week,
so I'm saying something that's
January,
very
February.
concrete is we can go back a couple of years and show how many empty beds there are at Fulani.
Right.
That is concrete.
And as a commission, we have a foundation now of how we see we can begin a movement in terms of transforming the reentry process, entry system. My perspective, as I listen to Kara, is really being able as a commission to have the information, should it require going to to go into legislature and say, hey, you know, public safety needs to be throwing this amount of money to the Big Island. They need to be throwing this amount of money just so they can create diversion and the reentry community so that these men and women can come back to their homes. Right now, you know, the system is not flowing enough to really determine whether or not there is a reentry community for our offenders in the state of Hawaii.
And so something I was talking about in the future again is we do the space analysis, and I said we really have to be looking at, which we didn't do on the original one. Okay, we say there's adequate space for education, but when we did that analysis, we didn't look at what are the kind of programs we want the inmates to participate in. That's where we really need your help. And then say, can this space provide those programs to take place? Yeah.
I see Kristen. Kristen, do you have your hand raised?
Hold on.
Okay.
Ted first and then Kristen.
Mark,
Yes, Ted.
one question for Carol. What's the next step with this plan?
So there are two priority projects that we are looking at, and the first one involves the system-wide needs assessment, and the second one involves the legislative review. And that will take into account some of that system mapping work. So I really want to make sure that we're in compliance with our statute, and so that's the last two core parts, the last two components of our statute. The review of the comprehensive offender reentry program. So that's one priority. And in that, I want to look at both that specific piece of legislation, but also other House concurrent resolutions and Senate concurrent resolutions and kind of their status. And with that, it's imperative that we are looking at how people are moving through, especially the reentry process. So some of that system mapping work will be incorporated into that project.
Yeah,
And then we'll be looking at things there like why do we, you know, it will involve a look into the classification system as we are reviewing that. But a deep dive into the classification system that will probably take more time. I mean, this is something where we want to get done in January.
Well, again, I guess it's my impatience. Martha talked about funding. I just want to remind everybody, I've brought it up before in these meetings. It costs the department $80 per day, a little more than $80 per day to keep an inmate in Arizona. That's $29,000 per year. If we brought 100 inmates home, the department would not spend $2.9 million. And this is operating money. The department has discretion. I would love to see us take action that will require the department to return inmates and at the same time require that the money saved be used for programming purposes. It can be done, it has been done. So I guess I've said enough. Thank you.
Yeah, but Ted, that's included in that statute, you know, that requirement that people come home. So that will be included.
Right, but they're not, Kara. They're not coming home.
Right, no, I understand that, but I think a part of process is reporting out on that and showing
Right.
the data to support that, and
But
then,
we've got to shine a bright light on it.
right, agreed.
Thank you, Ted. Kristen? You're muted. Yeah.
Thank you. No, I appreciate it, Mark. I just wanted to chime in because like I feel like there's some confusion about like what oversight can be. And so I just wanted to note that yes, like it is our role to oversee the department, not do the department's job for them, but also in oversight, national practice is very common that if there's information out there that an oversight entity wants or needs and the department's not tracking it or it doesn't exist, it's not uncommon for an oversight agency to take it upon themselves to get that information and find that, whether it's through surveys or, you know, whatever the process may be. So I just wanted to note that, you know, I totally understand where commissioners are coming from, but I wanted to make sure that there's an understanding as well that, you know, us finding information or pulling information in our own way isn't necessarily doing the job of the department. It's just making sure that we get the information that we need. The second point that I just wanted to mention is, like, I know that there is a rush for this information, but I just want to remind everybody on the call that Kara had just started a few months ago. And so it was important for us to make sure that she put together a plan that really outlined for the public, like the work that she plans to do, the work, you know, and how she's going to do it moving forward. So now that that's out and done, you know, she's about to jump in and do the work. And so everything that you've brought up, Ted, and especially everything that's outlined in that reentry mandate, you know, we're about to shine that light. Like that's happening right now. She's already started that work. And so I know that it's frustrating. But you know, like we take great pride in our work. We hold very high standards for ourselves, the staff. And so like if things take time to make sure that we're doing a really thorough review and analyzing the information, you know, we would rather take that route than rush it and have information that may not be correct or et cetera, et cetera. So it felt like things were getting a little tense. So I just wanted to put in that additional context. And if there's any information that I can provide to commissioners on, you know, kind of like the typical like national standards of oversight, like I'd be more than happy to do that. You know, anything that I can provide to help, you know, add greater context.
Mark?
Yes, Mike.
This is really important. I'm wondering, is public safety here today? Is Tommy, or did he send someone? Or are we out there dancing in the dark?
He's not here.
You're not here.
No one from the department.
This is a healthy discussion. I guess my questions to Kara or Kristen, when I see there some options like best practices, evidence-based practices, what's going on in Europe, and we've dealt with Norway at this last conference. I really think that's important, that we shine a light on it. So I really, we could go into those, right, Kara? ACA standards?
Yeah, ACA standards, and then throughout the plan, I mean, we have incorporating, highlighting best practices from other jurisdictions and offering those recommendations here.
Good, because that is really healthy to look and see what other cultures, not just the continent, but maybe the Europe or other things. And we're learning a lot. And I really liked that amend group that came into the last conference. And that's kind of a homegrown thing. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll follow up on that. So I agree, you know, we need overviews, you need strategies and things like that, but I think Ted was concerned about there's people on the mainland that they should be brought back, not pursuant to law. So why can't we implement those those mandates by statute and pursue the strategic plan? So it's almost like we go to visit the jails, prisons, And we conduct inspection, we write up, say this is not acceptable, send it to public safety and they respond. We see that there's people not being brought back pursuant to statute. I think we can address that rather than wait for the end.
Sure, yeah, I mean, I don't think if we go to different facilities and we see that parts of the comprehensive offender reentry system aren't functioning, I definitely think we can highlight that in facility reports. I have some of that included in the oversight section when we are on facility tours. I also think it's helpful to address it system-wide too.
Oh, yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
that. In the
I think
meantime-
a two-pronged approach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In the
that makes
meantime,
sense.
there's things that needs to be addressed. That's what I think Ted is saying, you know, and just like when we inspect the facilities. You know, it's terrible, oops, you know. And it be addressed now versus waiting. So we have two-pronged approach.
Yeah, that makes sense. And in terms of waiting, I don't want to give the impression that I'm thinking like, oh, next year at this time, maybe I'll review the
Yeah.
statute. That is something that we'll move into early next year. And so if people aren't coming home within the year time, that'll be highlighted and we can have the data and then offer recommendations from there. And as we see things out of alignment with that statute at facilities too, we can highlight that there. I really want to have a reentry focus on the tours too.
We are fighting for our lives this session because we are not in the budget. And I believe it's important that we present to the legislature some of the very obvious flaws that we can see. And one example would be, again, not using the minimum beds. And we should be able to get from the data we have, how many people on the Big Island, on the mainland, are with less than 1 year away from their tentative parole date. And just share that data. We may not be able to go into the in-depth analysis of that data, that the reason this one did not come back is because of write-ups, you know, or whatever, but it's giving them the highlights because we've got to take advantage of this opportunity. That's what I'm concerned about. We won't be here a year from now.
Well, I fully agree. I mean, Kristen and I have discussed the plan. We have reports that we want to release during legislative session this specifically
And
for
that's
that.
what we want to release too.
Yes, of course, yeah. And so, I mean, that is what we want to highlight, the biggest issues that we're seeing and be in compliance with our mandate in terms of reporting on that system. And I think we can do both. I guess that's kind of what I want to say. I think there's an opportunity to do both. Both say like, okay, we're having a crisis here. Here's the crisis, but we're also facilitating to a new system. So here's the plan for that. I think we can hold
And
both
to share the crisis, we have to have data, and we do have, you know, we're able to do it, get some of that data. Because Kristen was successful in getting a system set up where she's using the PSD data and it's available to you and you to make those analyses and us to make those analyses, yeah.
Reentry is a large portion of our mandate. Yeah, and for the first 3 years of our existence, we didn't have any idea which direction we were heading. As soon as we were able to hire Kara, her job was to lay the foundation for us to begin our work in reentry. Yeah, and so this is what has happened. This is what we've been waiting for. I think it's a good thing. Those of you, by January, and I could be wrong with the date, the Department of Public Safety will be completed with their separation. With their separation with the Department of Law Enforcement coming along line, and then the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. The current Deputy of Corrections, Songa, will be moving over to become the Deputy of Rehabilitation. Public Safety has put out a national search for a Deputy of Corrections, a new one. And so I think the fact that Kara was already able to meet with the new Deputy of Rehabilitation is a good step. Yeah, in the right direction, as well as the head of the current Public Safety's reentry office. But that's where we are right now. I think we have a good understanding. Want to move on in our agenda if we can. And just congratulate Kara for her good work, and Kristen and George, thank you so much for this much needed report at this time. Thank you.
And next time, give us all the pages. All the odd number of pages are missing from our from this.
Oh,
That was a good discussion. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. I'm very confident we have a direction and a purpose in that mandate that we haven't really been looking at for quite some time. As we move forward, we're gonna look at the oversight coordinators report.
yes, I'm going to offer that, for Chris and the whole agency. So, okay, so I'll start with a death in custody. On Sunday, October 22nd, 2023, a person in custody, male, 51 years old, was found unresponsive in his cell at the Saguaro Correctional Facility at 3:57 p.m. Staff immediately called a medical emergency over the radio, secured uninvolved individuals to their cells, called 911 emergency services, and began CPR. A medical doctor declared the individual deceased at 4:19 p.m. Eloy Police Department and PSD's Internal Affairs Unit are all conducting their respective investigations. So I'll share a few updates from the work of the staff and Kristen this month. We reviewed women's court proceedings. So I observed women's court early November. Women's court is a 3-year pilot program, and Judge Trish Morikawa presides over this court. It's every Wednesday. And this court is designed to connect women with services, service providers, housing, clean and sober living, substance abuse treatment, therapy, education, and medical services. It's a really great court, and a really great observation. Currently, there are 13 women in the court. It's a 3-year pilot, as I shared, and would love to see this expanded after the pilot's complete. Also, the team here is now participating in First Circuit Jail Diversion Program meetings. So we're coming together with other members of the First Circuit to further post-booking jail diversion. And also, I attended a community housing consortium, and this is put on by Transforming Lives. And the chaplain there, Barbara Gatewood, she runs the program and also is the chaplain at OCCC. During this consortium, Corey Ranke from HPA was the keynote speaker, and Christy from Public Safety Reentry Coordination Office was there, and also Intake Services. So the goal of this is to connect housing providers ultimately with people in custody who need housing, and this brings different partners together to make that happen. So I really thank Warden or Chaplain Gatewood for what she's doing there. She's providing a really great service. The other 2 updates that we have here, and for anyone who's reading over the report, I'm skipping over some items, and that's because they're on the full agenda. We have some updates, our data webpage. We've been working with ThoughtWorks. Kristen's been working with them for quite a long time to design a data page and a data web page and a case management system. So the first phase of our data web page launched last month, and our case management system that should be launching in the next few months. We're in the final stages of making that happen. And just to note, Kristen has worked so hard on this, everyone, and ThoughtWorks, who's our partner here, we're really grateful. They're providing all these services at no cost to the state, and they're really, really fantastic organization to work with. So huge thanks to Kristen and George and ThoughtWorks here. And then finally, one project that we are working on here is a staff focused survey report. So we'll be administering a survey to all the staff in public safety, and we are going to utilize some form of a survey that's being used in 5 other states. There's more information, there'll be more information forthcoming about this. But last month we met with facility wardens and chiefs of security to discuss logistics, the distribution of the surveys, and also next steps. We'll begin distributing them in December. And we are really grateful to have support from the Department of Public Safety and United Public Workers for this survey project and report.
Any questions on the coordinator's report? Anything to add, Kristen?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Got a question, Mark?
Yeah, I was asking if you folks had any questions for Kara on that report or Kristen?
Mark?
Yes, Ted.
Do we have any follow-up from the facilities on some of the recommendations we made on the facility tours?
That'll be the next,
Okay, I'll hold it.
okay? Hearing no questions for item 9 on our agenda, I'm gonna move forward again on our responses to the commissioner's recommendation. I'm just gonna do. Yeah, so as we are today visiting Kulani, this has been the first time probably in the last 4 months that the commissioners have gotten out and able to and visit the facilities. And after each facility, we issue a report to public safety on what our findings are concerning programming, operational structure, security issues, whatever we see. And then saying that this needs to be fixed and can we have information on this? And they normally respond back to us. And then Carol's gonna go over where we are with that at this time.
Okay, yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. Just that we have received the responses from public safety and all the specific facilities on our recommendations. So the provided recommendations and their responses, we are working within the staff to put together a chart that outlines all that information. And that once that's complete in terms of the recommendation and the response in the chart form, that will definitely be posted on our website. And in terms of the actual reports we received back from public safety, we're checking with the Attorney General's office on their recommendation as to whether that can all be posted publicly too. And so more information forthcoming on that, but know that that's something that we are looking into now. And all the commissioners should have received the responses from each facility.
Well, HCCC, Oahu CCC, Kauai CCC, Maui CCC. We're going to Kulani today. We haven't heard back from the women's.
Not yet.
Kristen?
So I haven't sent a follow-up regarding the recommendations yet. I wanted to give them a little time. And so right now we have all of the responses from the jails that have been completed. And then I figured after we complete the prison tours, you know, we can go through the same process and get written responses from all of the facilities.
And thank you, that's a better way to say it. All the jails have been visited and have responded to our recommendations. What we're waiting, we have gone to women's, we have gone to Halava, we haven't gotten anything back yet. We just submitted our recommendation today. We're going to Kulani today, and we're going to Waiawa last, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Any recent feedback from Maui?
No, there's been no additional responses since the original reports.
The Maui concerns me because number one, some of the violations we saw were egregious. They concern life safety issues. Number two, I found their response to the issue of access to grievances vague. I'm not sure what they're doing to improve that. Number three, they seem to disagree with us on the number of hours inmates are required to spend in the cell. They seem to think it's all right for inmates to spend 19 hours in a cell with two or three other roommates. So I just want to see see more on that.
One of the things we want to do right now, Ted, is really take a look at the proposed actions or response to the so what we got the responses back from the public safety from each of the jails. And then Ted, you want to talk about the response back to them after reading those responses?
Will do.
Looking at the,
Did we lose?
The IMO.
yes. Yeah. So we, Commissioner Sakai drafted a response, the responses that were given. And in some of those responses, recommendations were followed, and in some of them they were not, as Ted just alluded to. So we wrote a response back after reviewing the jail responses. And I'll just touch a little bit on it. And we want to see if you can look, commissioners, into your files that was sent to us by George. There is the document there, and that's what we will, that will be our proposed action as the follow-up. Yeah. One is we're strongly recommending the Department of Public Safety that they take immediate action to fully staff and strengthen its inspection and investigation office, or commonly referred to as IIO. We're looking at creating them to be a little bit more robust than what they have right now, because as we make recommendations to the Department of Public Safety, they need to have a unit that responds to our recommendation and are able to follow up to assure that the facilities are following our recommendations in regards to safety matters, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the recommendations of boosting the IIO office. That's pretty much it at this particular point in time. It's like the previous agenda item where we talked about, are we doing the work or we're not doing the work? But we want to make sure if we're making recommendations and we're providing oversight to the department, that they have the capability of doing what we're asking. Sometimes that's how we support the department in terms of moving their biggest issues forward, by assuring that they have their own people in there that are pushing the recommendations of the Oversight Commission. If you're looking at that document right now, I would entertain a motion for the acceptance of this letter to the Department of Public Safety's director.
Wasn't sent yet.
No.
No, yeah.
Anyone have questions on that document?
Ted, did you have a chance to review it because it's based on your recommendations?
I'm sorry. Martha,
There is a letter dated November 9th from Mark to Tommy that outlines increasing the IIO office. So I'm wondering what we're being asked right now. We approve the letter as written, and I want to know if you have any comments, because it was based on your excellent.
no, the reason I take this step is, we found some violations. For example, the Maui is, I keep mentioning Maui, but you have padlocks and back doors, and there's no way for inmates to escape a fire. So
Yes.
if there's a fire in any of these dorms, everybody burns. What really was difficult for me was not only at Maui, but at other facilities. It seems that there were these violations, and the staff didn't seem to know that there were violations. For example, when we went to a CCC, there was nobody, inmates in the containers, those COVID containers outside, and no staff in sight, and nobody seemed aware of that. So we're not supposed to find these things. When we find these, we have to make an issue because they are serious, and it's incumbent on us to follow up. But the department really needs a very robust mechanism to ensure that the facilities meet the minimum health and safety standards, whether they be implemented by OSHA or the NFPA or the local fire department, the Department of Health, and they need to have the capacity at the facility level and at the department level to go in. The facility level should be constantly looking for any kind of violations. There needs to be a safety officer. Then at the department level, there needs to be a team that can go to every facility periodically to inspect, to make sure that there are no violations, and whatever violations are found are corrected, but also to make sure that the safety officer and the warden are doing their job. So anyway, that's the reason. This is especially important now that the physical facilities are in such bad shape. So that's why I thought of coming up with this letter.
So, Ted, do you have any sense as to what IIO is doing today at the department? I have absolutely
No, I have no idea.
Because the first thing we
can
said,
go-
does it even still exist?
Well,
I
if
feel a little
if
complex.
they're doing it, I think they need to really ramp up what they're doing. And hopefully we can give them impetus to do this.
Yeah,
I can give a little bit of context on IAO. So one thing that I definitely want to point out is that they are severely understaffed. I don't think that IAO has been prioritized as far as requesting additional staff or even being able to staff those positions. An example of that, like grievance is a part of the IAO office. They only have 2 grievance officers for the entire state, which obviously is not anywhere near efficient. And so on the other side, I'm trying to remember how many of those like specific people that they have actually go in and audit the facility. I only actually know of one individual where that's his role. So I think a big part of this is that IIO hasn't been prioritized.
and we don't even know if they're doing any inspections of facilities. They may be only concentrating on business.
Or
Right. I know that they're doing audits, but yeah, I think there's more that could be done.
And that's something we can ask for, is copy of their audit reports.
I have those. I can send them to you, Martha. I sent them to Ted.
I get something to say.
yeah, I think this is again a really healthy discussion, and I'm sad that public safety isn't here. The idea of having redundant systems where people's lives are at risk harks back to my concern that we're not dealing with Amazon and widgets. We're dealing with human beings, many of whom are older and sick and in need, and we got to do this right. And one way you do it is you do it with redundant systems, and people should welcome that. When I was, and I'm sure Judge Ibarra experienced this too, at the court, we called it collaboration, not collaboration. We're trying to work collegially with public safety, and it's hard for me to know that they're aboard on this when they're physically or virtually not here. But I think this is a really healthy discussion. So again, it's okay if we have several set of eyes, Makavalu, on a situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Ted, I just have one suggestion, and that is the issue of rodent infestation at the women's facility. It was in the kitchen that was noticed.
Oh dear.
Okay, it's probably a mistake I made or misread the report or something.
So I
No
just want
problem.
to add, it says
Yeah.
the kitchen, WCCC kitchen. Thank you.
So we're like what we just heard with the reentry report, these visits by the commission, us writing letters, sharing what we found to public safety, they're responding back to us what they did. We're learning the process by which we can be that oversight body for these places and how to help them to fix the problems that they have. Most of them is structure at this time, trying to get these facilities up and running and deserving of creating those humane environments that we all know is not currently happening at this time. So this is a good first step. This is the first document of us responding back to their response to us. And then we continue to learn how we can be that oversight body to solve the system problems. So no further questions. I'll take a motion to accept this as an action, accept the letter as written, whatever edits necessary. No. That was the cookie for us. Sorry, guys. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the letter to send to the director.
With
of
edits,
safety, with edits.
So moved.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded that the letter drafted by Commissioner Sakai to Tommy Johnson from myself be accepted. Any further discussion on the letter? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed say same. Motion passed. Thank you, everyone. And last month, we had our commission meeting and we went into Halama Correctional Facility, myself and Martha, Farah and Christian. And so Martha's gonna give a briefing on that visit for everyone at this time.
Okay, so we conducted the tour on March 19th. And on that date, there were 835 individuals confined at Halava, with approximately 19% comprised of parole violators. And first we met with the new Warden Shannon Clooney. He is a local man, but he spent his career in Idaho. He's been at the facility for 9 months, but he spent more than 30 years working in the Idaho Department of Corrections. And he clearly has the knowledge and experience for the job, and we were most impressed by him. He also accompanied us on the tour and answered any questions that we had. Individuals housed at Lava, some were still wearing striped uniforms, but they're being phased out very happily. And so they will go back to the way we used to have it, that people got colored uniforms based on, like, orange might be a medium security inmate, and green may be a minimum security inmate. So we're getting rid of the stripes, which I'm very happy to see go. The facility first opened 35 years ago and has not been maintained and updated well enough during that time. And remember, as I always say when we're reviewing facilities, these are not problems that just happened in the last 4 years or whatever. These are long-term problems that have escalated from lack of maintenance, which is very common in the state when it comes to state buildings. For example, there were electrical outages that affected 20% of the cells. So some inmates were in the dark when they're in their cells. There's light in the hallway. Some cells were not available for use at all. And the electrical problems were due to leakages coming in through the roof. And so it was creating a very dangerous situation. I don't know exactly how many cells fell into that category. We need to have this, at some point, there used to be an electrical and plumbing work lines that we have in the facilities, but it appears they're not there anymore. The special needs facility, which is the old Halava jail, that was built in 1962 and was greatly renovated in the early 1980s, is no longer in use. It's been closed. And you folks may remember that there was a successful escape from that facility with Bakalana and some others. And that was a result of spalling. You know, they were able to get out or pulling apart things with concrete. So it's not in use and it should not continue to. That's our recommendation. Correctional industries. The correctional industries, at the time we went to do the tour, it was closed. So closed was around 2 p.m. a change of shift. And it is not anywhere near as robust as it used to be. They focus on the commissary for the state, as opposed to doing building things and mechanical, like work on cars from the state and things like that. It has really, you're not getting trained in any skills really. They're just running the commissary. The warden would like to expand and improve correctional industries. He knows what it's like to have a robust correctional industries program. The Learning Center is in very good condition. They have education running at 4 different sections during the day, and they offer the GED and college classes to Chaminade University and Windward Community College. And the first associate degrees for graduation was held on May 17th of 2023. It is clean. The warden is very proud of that area. He said during the day, it is very crowded. It is very occupied. All spaces are being used. Education has 1 full-time staff member who runs education for the entire facility. There is also 1 person, in custody person who is on the educational work line. It is down to 3 full-time teachers, 1 secretary, and 2 work line positions. They're supposed to have more than that, and I'll discuss that under the recommendations. But it has been reported there have been fewer class cancellations in recent time due to security staff shortages. One advantage about closing the special needs facility is that staff got moved to the medium facility. So we're able to keep the classrooms open, which is very good to hear. The kitchen was clean and orderly. A worker assembly line was preparing food, packing food and cleaning the dishes. The refrigerator and pantry areas was in very good order with visible temperature gauge above the refrigerator doors. One of the steamers was overflowing with water. They had brought that to our attention as we entered the kitchen. So we saw it as we were doing our tour, but they said they had someone coming in to fix it very shortly. Let's see. Oh, also some tiles were missing from the floor and the walls, but the place was clean. It was very clean. Medical and mental health. In the infirmary area, we have 2 living areas, and one is used for the medically ill, and one is used for the mentally ill. And the one for the mentally ill has been used for a number of decades now for that purpose. On the day of the tour, there were 26 people on the infirmary side of the medical unit and 12 on the mental health side. The infirmary side is for full-time medical care, similar to that would be provided in a nursing home. The population in the mental health side is similar to those at the state hospital in terms of psychiatric care and observation. As I think the people who are attending this meeting are well aware that in the correctional system, you have a much higher rate of serious and chronically mentally ill people, and this is a chronic problem throughout the United States. I wish we had a real forensic unit that we could use and put people in. The medical side was overcrowded, and some of them were, as Mike Town would bring up earlier, were elderly. And really, you have to question why, as a state, we still continue to hold these people incarcerated, why they're not being released out into the community. Some of the medically ill individuals have been there for long term, and one man that Kara and I spoke to, he informed the commission that he's been there for 5 years, and he informed us that he was a pretrial inmate, which we did not have time to verify. But Kristen did find on the classification system that there is one pretrial inmate in Halava, and it could be this person, and that's why he's there, because there's an infirmary bed there for him. Many of the mentally ill individuals will remain in the unit single cell in individual suicide-proof cells for extended periods of time. Nursing staff conducts the sick call in the modules, and those needing follow-up are referred to the medical unit. The staff told the commission that healthcare staffing is always a struggle. So I think everybody should be aware, and that weekends are particularly difficult, and a large percentage of the nursing staff are traveling nurses. Special holding unit in medium security that's made up of 44 cells that are broken down into units that are broken apart, that are separated by glass barriers between them. And it's used for disciplinary segregation, protective custody, and the serious mentally ill. During the visit, 8 cells were assigned to individuals in protective custody who were also identified as gang members. Even with multiple uses, not all the cells were occupied, implying there was adequate restricted housing space available. 4 of the cells that are located at the end of the unit are physically separated from the rest of them are being used for the seriously mentally ill. And those housed in the SHU are visited regularly by the mental health staff multiple times a day, participate in individual and group therapy, and do have greater access to the outdoor recreation area. There are 4 small outdoor recreation areas available. All the recreation areas in Halava are concrete walled exercise areas. The ones in the all of them are exposed to the sun, so you get outside air. The ones, of course, in the holding unit have covers over them, mesh covers over, so they can't escape through there. Let's see, we also visited module 1. Oh, I'm sorry, the people who are in the SHU, it says they recreate for 1 hour a day, but as I recall, the warden said they're there, they get to go out 2 hours a day. Very often inmates refuse recreation too, so I want people to know that they all have access to recreation, but not all inmates take up the opportunity to go outside. One of the, module one, the facility has 4 modules of the same design of 124 cells broken down into 2 blocks with 4 quads within there of 15 to 16 cells each. Again, I informed you that some of the cells are not available for use because of leaky roofs and or electrical problems. Security staff are in boxes separated from the incarcerated population by glass and then bars and communicated people to a muffled microphone. But when we were there, we did see staff going into the living areas, getting closer to the population. But unfortunately, the structure really does not allow for a lot of face-to-face contact with the staff. The inmates told us that they were allowed out of the cells in their quads for most of the day. So they had access to go outside, and that's where the television was for each level. One of the quads in this module is designated for the mental health population. One thing I want to say about having a serious mentally ill in the holding unit, an advantage of that is it does not have the noise that you will find in the modules. And noise can be a really disruptive factor for those who are seriously mentally ill. Because I had concerns about having mentally ill in special holding. Let's see. The facility added mental health offices right off the quad, so mental health staff can be close to the population, even see them in their offices if they choose to do that. The commission was informed that there's 1 unit team manager and 2 social workers assigned to each module. However, the facility has 8 social work vacancies, so there should in fact be 4 social workers for each of the modules. That would be 1 for each of the quads. I was also very discouraged to, this results in a high caseload, 80+ inmates per social worker. I was discouraged to see that on the unit team manager's door, there's a sign that boldly said, "Do not enter." And B, then it seemed like the inmates could not get to that area. I think it was referring to the staff. The modules were generally clean and the people in custody were fairly quiet while we were there. We were allowed to go up and talk to inmates as we chose to do. Let's see, again, we talk about the leaks. They were out of their cells most of the day interacting. I think they had some board games up there. I don't quite remember well, but I think they might have had some board games up there. Idleness though is still a problem. There's not enough for them to do during the day. If you're not participating, especially in the education section, you don't have much to do during the day. And again, the 2 outdoor rec areas, small yards made of concrete with a little more than a basketball net available. And although the facility has always had a very large grassy area in the back of the facility that is supposed to be used for outdoor rec, in the time the facility has been open, we rarely use that space, which is very unfortunate. So they're really stuck in these concrete things. So recommendations were covered very quickly in the report, the Oversight Commissioner's report. I mean, I'm still the Oversight Commission, the Oversight Coordinator's report. So increase non-security staffing must be prioritized for transitioning to a rehabilitative and therapeutic system. So again, education is down 3 full-time teachers, 1 secretary, and 2 work line positions. And additionally, there are 8 social workers that are missing from the modules. The facility cannot fulfill the essential mission and purpose of the Department of Public Safety and forthcoming Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation without staff in these crucial roles. The Learning Center and social work positions are imperative for rehabilitative and therapeutic systems. We ask that they recommend that they permanently close the special needs facility. Our population statewide has been going down. A number of years ago, we almost topped 6,000 people, and now there's about 4,500 people incarcerated. That includes the Arizona population. So we do not see a reason they would need to reopen that facility and use it again. So we're recommending that it not be used in the future. We ask that they recommend they prioritize and expedite capital improvement projects to repair electricity and the perimeter fencing, which also is a problem for public safety if anybody should escape. Expand the correctional industry's work line to include specific training in skilled trades that would lead to gainful employment. Increase training and support for uniformed staff. One of the things I've been asking about is how many opportunities the people have for training, and it doesn't seem to be a lot, and there aren't we used to have the ability to go to different National Institute of Corrections trainings that were sponsored. And I did ask the warden about this, and he's under the same impression I am, that a lot of them are done now via the internet. And so you're losing that opportunity to meet other people in the field and learn from other people, which is most unfortunate. But I also think people are not encouraged to participate in these online trainings that are available. Increased training and support for case and unit managers to better meet the population's needs for release. And the last is the department should support legislative efforts towards compassionate release or transfer to more appropriate medical centers for those who are severely ill. And that's the report on the left.
Any questions on the report? Mike or Ted? Ronald?
Nope.
Yeah. Just
No
a
questions.
Just a few comments I wanted to add to that. You know, special needs facility, by closing down, it's a unique event at this time, as most of the population was up there for specific reasons, from mental health to protective custody. And so with the loss of the facility, a lot of that had to be assimilated into the current, a lot of medium security, where now you have a little bit more mental health in their segregation units, and trying to figure out where to put the protective custodies. And, you know, we can spend the whole day on talking what protective custody means, but that was one of the things about how do you close a facility and then incorporate that into a medium security facility. The other thing that was positive about it was that all of that staff assigned to that facility was reassigned to the medium security. So there's a little bit relief on the overwork and the fatigue that has been going on with staff. So instead of having the 24 hours and 30 hours or 40-hour shifts, they're down back to just a regular 8 and 16, because they have been received all that staff from the other facility. So those are some of the positive things that are happening there. We're going to be submitting our reports after everyone agrees with what we put down. And any further questions, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Okay, hearing none. The HCR 23 task force, we continue to have our second meeting last month. Once again, 24 of us from HPA, Fred Ewing, Tommy Johnson from Public Safety, almost every prosecutor from the 4 counties, Public Defender's Office,
Victim
representatives, judges that are on the panel as well. So a very robust discussion. We're talking a lot, and I just want to inform everybody that a lot of that information that is going on in those meetings, even though public cannot participate, but they can observe, it is on our website. So you can go on our website, click on HCR 23, and all the information that has been presented so far in those last two meetings is there to include the video of the event right now. So right now we're at a point from hearing some of the discussions and figuring out a way to collect the data to help us understand what is really happening in the sentencing process and the minimum sentencing process and the role that HPA plays in that, and whether or not there is some validity in that system. So right now, we've had 2 great discussions. We're now in the process of collecting data, and I believe our next meeting will be in January. And we continue to have the discussions on the sentencing review of in the Hawaii criminal justice system. Any questions on the task force and our role in that task force at this time? Hearing none, I'd like to move on. Thank you, folks, for all of you who are here online and sitting with us here in Hilo at the university. I know we didn't have any public comments in the beginning. And I know there was a comment earlier in the meeting. When we have our meeting, it's really for the commissioners, and we have testimonies in the front and testimonies in the back that questions can be asked, or you can provide testimony, or during the meeting, don't be afraid to put in the chat questions that you may have, because we're reviewing the questions as they come across. And we'll probably uplift those questions if we see that it's part of the discussion that we're having. So with that being said, we'll begin with the online people. If I can see some digital hands or a wave of your hands, I would love to hear some of the comments you may have on our meeting today. Eric, I'll start with you, Eric.
Good morning, Commission. First and foremost, just like to thank everybody for being here. I was so glad to see you up there, Mr. Patterson. I think we're making some really good change on our island and our community. Also to Cara, good job on the preliminary report. There's some really good stuff in there that we can move forward from. A couple things I'm interested in seeing us discuss is, as we move forward with some of these House bills and initiatives, there's going to be some changes within the system. How do we intend to address this change with the first line guys, which would be our ACOs? Just based on my own personal experience in the system, whenever there's a change brought about within the system, there can be some opposition from guards that have been there for a long time. And being that the guards are a unionized entity, is there a action plan in place to address this issue when it comes up?
Thank you for that question, Eric. Just to let you know, several points. One, Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission, through our oversight coordinator, has established a relationship with the UPW, who is the main union for the correctional officers and other correctional staff, as well as HGEA. Both of those unions members are employed at the within the facilities, and we are having great conversations with them because they are the ones telling us that the members want change. At the same time, the staff survey that you heard Cara talk about is crucial to what you're asking right now. We want to hear from them what changes are needed. We want to hear from them and give them a voice in here to know what their concerns are as well. Yeah. So those are two areas that we're working on right now in regards to your question. That is also, we see, like you just said, is crucial to our reentry and the changes that we hope to implement.
Excellent, thank you. I think Mr. Sakai made a great point on how we can, divert some of these funds that are being used, quote unquote, a little bit unnecessarily, and divert those funds into programs and services for the inmates that'll benefit them when they get out. The thought of having them, released at the door with puka shirts and no backpack and nowhere to go, it can be a real easy cause for them to recidivate. And I'm all about, training. So I know we're kind of still reorganizing things here, but I think we really need to start the discussion on program partnerships with the university and our correctional facilities, so that when these guys get out, and girls, when they get out, they have a fair chance at employment opportunity, because it's going to be a key factor into reintegrating them into society. Because as we know, they come out, they don't have a job, they can't get hired, nothing to look forward to. It's real easy for them to fall back into the system, which they've become so accustomed to dealing with on a daily basis. So maybe we can just keep that in mind, how we're gonna form these program partnerships between the university. I'm not sure if the commission is the catalyst, and I'm a little disappointed that nobody from DPS is here. Perhaps some of these questions might be for them, but just as a board, let's keep that in mind, that we need to provide these inmates with educational opportunities so they have a chance when they get out. There's a huge shortage right now in construction, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, general laborers. I can't even find guys that want to, mow yards and rake. So we have a huge chance to fill these positions at an entry level and give these inmates an opportunity for success once they're reintegrated back into the community. And that concludes my questions.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate your words. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Kat?
Oops, hello.
You're on mute, Kat.
Okay. I first wanted to thank Kara for the report. You know, the reentry law passed in 2007. It's taken 16 years to actually get something really going. And I really appreciate the work that she's doing and what she'll be looking into, because the only way that we can really improve the system is through data. We need to know who's in there, what they need, and what we need to do to serve the people in the care and custody of the state. So thank you so much for that, Kara. Great report. Disappointing that public safety is not at the meeting. I think their input is really important. And in the spirit of collaboration, we really need to work together, because this is about our family and friends. So it's not an abstract issue for the community. It's our family and friends. So thank you so much. Aloha.
Chaz, saw your hand up. How you doing, Chaz?
You're
Can't
on
hear you,
mute,
Chaz.
Chad. You're on mute. There you go.
Be able to hear me now, I think, I hope.
Yes.
Okay, I promised myself I would be prepared for this, but that was the first glitch. But thank you, Mr. Commissioner, the Chairman, Commission staff, and everybody else who's listening. Thank you for the ability to be here. I had a couple of comments to make and a question. There is a major problem that we have with public safety complying with many of the things that are expected out of an organization like this. The first comment I would make is that at the first part of my career, by the way, I'm the head of WorkNet Inc., was to believe that public safety was sitting on evidence that they weren't releasing. My belief has now changed. I don't think they have the evidence. I don't think they have studies. I don't think they have information. I don't think they have the data that is necessary for us to know how things are going and how they're being operated. I've had this discussion with the director and the reentry office, offering my services as much as possible to provide data on our population, and I was pretty much rebuffed. It's like, well, I think the comment to me was, we're not going to help you do your job, which I think misunderstood what my offer was to help them provide good data for us. So that's one thing. The other thought I have is that we have been operating under the idea that reentry starts at the time the person enters the criminal justice system. I've tried to operate on this basis ever since I started doing this work, and I tried to design my agency so that my agency honors that from the first program that we had, which was to go into the facilities and work with inmates to provide a plan for when they came out. Well, my mind is changing about that too. And I think there's a corollary to that idea that we really lost in terms of the way that our idea about reentry has proceeded. Although we know reentry starts very early, reentry does not stop when the incarcerated individual leaves the lockup. That sounds rather strange, but I believe that's what our attitude is in public safety, that public safety doesn't have a responsibility when the person leaves the lockup if they're in with public safety. Think of it this way. If a person goes on to parole, they have a plan because the paroling authority requires a plan. It's a parole plan they have when they leave. It is not a comprehensive plan for their success in the community. If a person is under the jurisdiction of the courts, they have a probation plan that is carried out in the community by a probation officer. I want to ask, and in particular, the legislation that we're sponsoring, I say we because I'm going to testify for it, definitely when the time comes. When an inmate is released, the idea is that they've been released because they have completed programming. And that's part of what this law was. If public safety does not provide that programming, there is no sanction for them that they haven't provided it. We have people right now inside our facilities who cannot get out of the facility simply because they haven't completed a mandated program that public safety has required, and public safety has not provided it. Let me be more specific about that. My agency does cognitive restructuring programming and cognitive skills programming, which is a mandate from both the parole board, but also the RAD unit over at Halava and other facility case managers. When our people move through the system, they don't have just one thing that they have to comply with. Every time they move someplace, they have a new case management system that may have a different idea about what it is they need to do to even complete their requirements at that facility. This is an unnecessary cluttering of the requirements that people have to get out of our system. So anger management is also a mandated required program. The system right now does not even provide that. I don't know of any time that they put out an RFP for it. I don't know of any concern that they seem to express that this is an important part of an inmate's progress to get out of being an inmate. Now, I think this is very important. These programs would not be mandated if there was not a total agreement that they are necessary for individuals to be prepared to come into the community for success. If we're not providing them, I don't see any excuse for that. And it's not good enough to say, okay, well, we'll let them out anyway, because that means that they have not been prepared properly to come out and be successful in the community. Now, I want you to think about this. Every single individual that has reached the end of their sentence, who is ready to max out, will be leaving that facility without a plan whatsoever. They have no one. This is a travesty. They have no one who cares enough about them to even give them a chance when they hit the community. What proof do we have of this? The proof is that they have the highest recidivism rate out of any cohort of anybody that's in the criminal justice system. The people who max out have no one, nobody, no plan, and no support. This is something we should be ashamed of. I am even more upset about this, as if I wasn't sounding already upset, by the fact that we have proposed to public safety a plan, an action plan to address this population. My agency is prepared to throw all in helping every single individual who leaves this system to ensure that they have a community service plan when they leave. Our programming is set up for this. I have not just suggested it, I have asked, I have begged, I have pleaded that we do this for people who are leaving our system without the help that they need. I'm hoping that this law that we're supporting will include people who are maxing out of their sentences, because they are the most needy population that we have that's coming into reentry. I believe that in my career, I have been extremely fortunate to be trained properly. And this is a great concern that I have in terms of how we go forward in a system that emphasizes rehabilitation. We cannot have practitioners unless we have preparation of those practitioners also. I was fortunate because I've been trained by the National Institute of Corrections, and I have been trained by ISIS, our local agency that actually puts out standards. And I was able to do that because back in the day, in the old days, it was okay for practitioners, for people like myself that run agencies who want to develop partnerships with public safety to go to these trainings. We had people within public safety where the slots were not filled, and therefore they would go going begging. I would demand, insist, beg, plead, let me in. I will take this training. I'm not going to resist it. So I've been fortunate to be trained so well in the same trainings that our public safety people have. I'm concerned that this particular effort, if we're mentioning trainings like we used to have, where we would be sent to the mainland and train under NIC or other agencies, is coming to a halt. That it's all done now being virtual and over the internet. This is not the way for us to make connections, for us to find out new ways to do things, for us to actually discuss practices and the best practices and then to implement. So I thank you for the work that you do. Tara, I am so impressed by the report. I hope that this can be widely disseminated and that all of us can join in actually making sure that the things that this report is saying will be implemented and not ignored by public safety. It's a travesty that there is no one here, no one to represent this important function that we have that we're discussing right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaz. Appreciate that.
You're right.
Okay. Okay, Kahu.
I understand that Kalehau Kamau is there and is planning to testify. Can I testify after him?
Okay.
Okay.
I think you were the last one online. We were waiting to do the last one online, and then we're going to move to those who are here. And for those of you who are here, we have a mic set up on the end of the table that you can come up to and speak. So I'm just going to look to the left when I see someone. Okay, brother. Your name?
Kalehau. My name is Kalehau. Aloha.
See, where to be in Florida?
Yeah, kind of unfortunate that public safety are not joining us in this meeting. I believe a lot of the stuff they should be hearing. First, I would like to just talk about something on a big island. Maybe Kulani. You guys going to Kulani today? Yeah. So recently they had shut down the work line for bring the guys out who will cut grass on the side of the road. They will shut that down, and it's kind of unfortunate because that's a very important, crucial part of the reintegration process. I mean, that's why we get minimum security. I think one of the reasons we have minimum community, you start going out little at a time, and then you hit community, you start going out again, you more time out, and you get used to by the time they release you. So it's getting back to what Chaz was talking about, that part of the successful reintegration. But they have shut that down. So when you guys go up there, just see, how do you get that win? Also, I would like to, I'm a recipient of Chaz Williams' program, and I back him 100%. The program has helped me put together my plan, implement my plan after I get out, and it was still rough, but at least I had a plan. And he's been doing awesome work, and I've been kind of feeling reading the stuff about him getting shut down, his funding, or whatever it was. I believe because of small little whatever. I mean, I don't know if small or big, but technicalities would seem like to me. But I think he needs to be allowed to do what he do. Because as I said, I'm a recipient of this program. I'm, where I am today, partly because of programs like Chaz Williams, programs like Laumaka with the slow integration, coming out, go on the side of the road, cut grass, look for job, and all these different resources which WorkNet will guide me to do resume, to how to fill out an application, how to do an interview, mock interviews and stuff like that. I think that's very important, and it's really sad that people, getting up. I mean, good thing Kaleo is up there helping out, giving out backpacks. Otherwise, they'd be going out with
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing, but what kind of clothes is that? Pepper clothes, you know, so.
Yeah.
Uh, So yeah, so I think, on greater focus, we need to focus on guys getting out, especially now that we have a new name for corrections now, which includes rehabilitation. Programs, like jazz and other programs, cultural programs, and the things that we've been trying to do for years, should be allowed to go through. To go through and give us a chance to implement these things for our guys on the inside. But that's all I have for now. Mahalo.
Ron?
You can let me talk now?
Yes.
Mahalo. For the record, my name is Ronald Fujiyoshi. I'm the treasurer of Ohana Hopakele. I have a cold today, so I couldn't be there in person to welcome you back to Hilo. I see a lot of people participating, so I'm glad that they were there to welcome you. Since the last meeting in Hilo, our president, Van Kahumoku, was released from prison incarceration. He was 23 years inside and released at 73 years old. So we thank Bob Merck for his role in the compassionate release. I'm glad he's having a vacation in Japan. I wish I were there with him. And I thank the Oversight Commission for the role it played in helping to release Van and people who are older, who, the chances of recidivism is very low. Yeah. Columbia University did a study that said anybody over 65 is almost 0% recidivism. So I think that's one way to get, stop the embarrassment of having elderly people dying in prison. I think we should save that money and have them out with families so that they can be surrounded by their loved ones. I understand that you'll be going to visit, at least some of you will be going to visit Kulani right after this. I wanted to say again how we in Ohana Hopakele have been impressed by the caliber of the people on the Oversight Commission. We're glad that the legislature set up this commission, and finally you have excellent staff to do this. I really believe that Keakua is guiding us to really move to a system that has been seen and as based on punishment to one that is based on rehabilitation and therapeutic ways. And I think now is the time that we all work together. I think after the experience up on the mountain that thousands of us experienced there, we experienced elements of the puhonua, having protocol 3 times a day, naming part of the program puhonua. There's education, all kinds of things for free up in the mountain, and people came and donated resources to keep the place alive. And I really believe with all of your experience and wisdom, and including working with us together, I think we can do move to a rehabilitative system. And what Ohana Hopakele has been advocating all these years, puhonua would be a cultural-based Hawaiian-style system of healing that should be implemented. And I think this is a time to showcase the system based on aloha that Hawaii is known for, that we can do and implement, and so that the world can look at us and see, a place which is so diverse, but people can work together in aloha. We can be the model that the world can look at. I was really impressed by Kara's report that she gave, And I don't know about everyone, but I appeal to all of the people in the audience and on Zoom that we support this Oversight Commission in their request for the budget at the next legislative session, so that we can have this great work continue. So thank you for the opportunity to testify. Also, some of you met Jess Haney, who has been our contract staff, and thank you for warmly meeting her and sharing your experience with her. So mahalo nui loa. Thank you very much.
Lois?
Hi,
Good morning,
Lois.
everyone. My name is Lois Torikawa, and I don't know if I'm the first former PSD employee to ever show up at these meetings, or PSD employee in general. So I thank you for your time. I was a PSD employee for like maybe 39 years, with the state 42 years. And as Martha, Ted, and I know, I guess, when I make a joke, we know where all the skeletons are buried. Anyway.
And who buried them, Lois?
Yeah, and who buried them, yeah. Yes. So I want to thank the commission very much for the work that they're doing. You know, it's the department needs change. And the commission, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for the department to help make this change, because the department needs help, need lots of help to do it, and lots of support. And you folks are the catalyst for it.
I want to say, Lois, and for the audience to know, you do meet exceptional workers in your career, and Lois is an exceptional social worker.
Oh, that's too kind of you, Martha. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. And you know, you guys, you know, we kind of languished, right, all over many years. And you folks have making a difference. And I do want to say that, you know, the commission needs to continue, has to continue in order for the change to happen. And I guess if anybody, I don't know how politics work exactly, but if it lies with the legislature, it lies with the budget to survive, right? And so if anybody, please write to the legislators. I guess it's Glenn Wakai, I guess. He's the chair of the Public Safety Committee. The budget, the head of the budget, is that Donovan Dela Cruz? I'm not sure. Yes, in particular. And of course, your legislators to fund the commission. I mean, everybody needs them. Everybody that, whether you've been in or out, work there, you know, once the staff gets the training you folks are talking about and the support, it's gonna trickle down. I mean, I have hope. I've always had hope for things to get better, and you folks are doing it. So thank you very much. And everybody, tell everybody right, okay? Because we need you folks, okay? We really do. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Lois.
Any other hands?
Right here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Aloha, my name is Jess Haney. I'm with Ohana Kelly. Mahalo, Kaho for the warm welcome. And a great meeting. It's so good to see you here and getting to know in person. So a couple comments for today. Kara, thank you for the reentry plan. It's really awesome to hear that the framework is needs, not risk. Like that is such a good steering direction. So there's a way to really have that dainty, that is a beautiful guiding star. And I just want to +1 on the thing around gathering data. I remember a couple of months ago in a meeting, there was a request about who is eligible from Arizona to be transferred to prisons in Hawaii, and we were told by the present staff of Department of Public Safety that they run those reports every day. They look at that. So we haven't had any follow-up on that. I just want to enthusiasm for the idea of like we got one picture from one group and then there might need to be another data set collected to like right set what's happening. And that response about eligibility was pretty disappointing about the capacity of the facilities. And thank you for reporting back on legislative priorities. I know that I asked about that last month, so really appreciate getting things together so we can see where you're steering. And just want to emphasize Judge Mike Towns, mahalo for bringing up the kupuna and all the folks over age 50, age 55 inside who are experiencing rapid health decline, made worse by time inside. So just really agree if there can be emphasis around reentry planning and support for them. And similar, as y'all know, Ohana Ho'okele is exploring implementing culturally relevant religious programming such as faith pods. So as you're looking at the programming inside, can you look at what the spiritual faith-based faith capacities are and what offerings there are and what's culturally relevant? And on that point, on the Halava tour, I'm curious if you visited the chapel. I've been told by people that the chapel is closed and that the religious programming is happening out of the learning center, which might be why it's extra lively, but that there's questions there about whether the full diverse multi-faith offerings are being offered in the chapel. So that's a question. And then
No, we did not go to the chapel.
oh, okay,
It's closed.
yeah, okay,
It was closed, we were there, we were not told it's closed all the time. It was
Yeah.
closed when we were there.
We were told that they're trying to supplement when they close into the.
So one of the kahu I spoke to who has been providing service there for a long time, said that that's a really important reentry point for people to have access to that and it being in a multi-faith setting, so that people are exposed to and cooperative with people of diverse religious backgrounds. And then, as you go to Kulani, please keep in mind the potential for Pu'uhonua there. A decade ago, the Department of Public Safety was exploring that with Ohana Ho'okele and other groups. And going home Hawaii, I met with them this week and Les reminded me that informed me that there's also been extra scoping done about the capacity for Kulani and the land there. So as you're planning for the reentry future, I can send that report to the commission if you'd be curious. To think about how could we dream big, but really practically with the research that has been done and the scoping that has been there. So mahalo nui, hope you have a great visit to Hilo, and we look forward to hearing about it.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the room?
I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
If we do not.
Introduce yourself.
Aloha, my name is Donna Madrid. I am faculty at Hawaii Community College. And to the defense of public safety, we do have Hawaii Correction Facility present. So there is representation, it's just not at the top. Present here with us today. How reliant are we as a commission for the approval of funding? And will that be a deterrent to the commission remaining active? I don't know how long the term, if it's ongoing until things get put on.
There's no sunset date on our statute. For the first 2.5 years, the governor didn't release funding for us. So we did not have any funding and we continued to meet, but it definitely slowed down what we were able to accomplish. And bringing on Kristen in July of 2022 is when things just started shooting up, because now we have. And now Kara is here with us. We were excluded from the budget. And it's said in the budget that the legislature agrees with this amount. But then it was not in the appropriation line that was supposed to be in. And then later we discovered that from one of the staff people that no, the legislature disagreed. The House does not disagree, it's the Senate. And so if we don't have staffing, we will not be able to accomplish it.
And then one last time, and thank you, Carol, for that awesome PowerPoint. It does give us hope. What I would want to comment on is, as you visit the counties, I'm hoping you're visiting with agencies that interface with justice involved individuals. And I would hope that these agencies would be forthcoming with their data and their performances in the past 5 years working with justice involved, because that matters.
I will say we've been to each of the counties now, so each of the major neighbor islands, and Hawaii Island is most participatory. It's not that people don't show up anymore, but you folks have a lot to say and help us a lot. We appreciate that. Thank you in advance.
I want to make just a few points. Anyone else before I bring it to a closure?
Well,
Mark, at some point I have a comment.
okay.
Let me redo my comments. Mike, go ahead, Mike. I'll ask the commissioners each to say something, and then I'll end, and then we'll close. Go ahead,
Thank
Mike.
you. We're saving you the best for last, but I had occasion recently to be a surrogate for a very sick person at a hospital. And they brought in a hospitalist, they brought in a discharge plan. It was amazing. There's no reason why that shouldn't apply in the justice system. And when I sit here today and I see Eric and Chaz and Kahu and Doris, my friend Doris, thank you for Lois. I mean, thank you for being here. Jesse, I'm overwhelmed that we need more and more of you folks to keep your voices firm and clear, because this can change. Our people are not widgets at Amazon. Jeff Bezos does a good job of getting Amazon to my wife's door. I have to stay home a lot of times to take care of my mo'opuna, but I am very much on the Big Island today with you in my own way. So please keep up the concern. We need more champions, and think about some way of getting for our kupuna surrogates who are in the facility, and the hospitalist concept, who's a doctor that gets you out. Because I'd like to call myself a restorative justice Sherpa. I can't, at my age, I cannot get you to the top of the Matterhorn, but I can get you part way up. So, or kaho keliva, to do a little bit of steering the canoe. I cannot stroke the canoe anymore, but please, thank you for what you're doing. And Kahu Ron, I really appreciate seeing you today.
Thank you, Mike. Ron, any last words?
Yeah, let me just emphasize again, that this is a big change from a punitive system to a rehabilitative system. And, we need to get the word out, right? The community, without the community support, change will never happen. Change is difficult, as we know. And we have people entrenched in the system, it's hard to change them. I remember when we first started the drug court in Ireland, and I started the whole island drug court here, and I got comments from people says, I don't want to hug the tub, and then after 10 years in the system, going through the drug court system, we had a recognition of the 10-year anniversary, and then people from the community came back into our graduation program, and comments were, hey, these look like regular people. You know, so we made the change, but it was only to the community. You know, people went out, got jobs, I told them, don't be afraid to tell them you're in drug court. And that the good things happen in drug court, they got a good employee. And I got to talk to the civic groups like the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, all these organizations who went out to gather, to help the food bank, took part in the parade, gave a lot of exposure. So the bottom line, I used to tell them, these people are human beings. Just like people who are in the criminal justice system, who are incarcerated, they need a voice. And you folks are the voice for change. And, you know, I implore that we continue this, educate the general public, politicians, because the public is behind them. And they'll vote for the politicians that would advocate the change. Thank you for your participation.
I already said everything.
I just want to thank everyone once again and just make some clarity. Commission is was created by law. Yeah. So we as commissioners who are volunteers for the Oversight Commission are not affected by the budget. The budget is solely so that we can have staff. Yeah. And if you look at our
Come here to meet with you.
and travel. Okay, so we can see the facilities and visit the communities. The point I'm trying to make is that if you look at the website and the volume of information that is currently on it, that's only been for the last 16 months of our 3-4 year journey. Yeah, that's what staff does. And the fact that Christian went in and said last legislative session, her first one, and she was honest. This is what we're finding. This is what's happening. And all of a sudden, you get a feeling that the legislature is backfooting. Maybe we don't want a commission. You know, and it's sad, you know. So that's why we're reaching out to you, is that if we get another year, all of our staff, can you imagine what else is going to be you know, may come to light? And that's where we're asking for your support. It's not so much the commissioners, but for the staff that is actually coming into your communities, coming into the facilities and talking to people. Yeah. And then making the recommendations for the commissioner to determine, to decide what we're going to take to public safety to create the change that is necessary. That's how it's working. That's what's important about it. Myself and Martha returned from Chicago yesterday. We were there with Christian for a national conference on oversight, both law enforcement and correction. And George, can you put that thing I sent you on the chat? I'm gonna talk to you real quick about the National Resource Center for Correctional Oversight. It's a new website that we just learned about at the conference, created by the University of Texas at Austin. And we met the two women that created it. It tells you everything about what oversight in a correctional system looks like.
I don't think it's on the internet yet. I think they said today.
Well, I think I just pulled it up. I think it's up and running. They just had a big thing
It's brand new.
yesterday to announce it to the world. And so I'm sharing that with you because I want you to go on and look at that. And from the perspective that you have on public safety, you'll figure out what we're supposed to be doing, and that can help you in your writing campaign that we hope to have. Christian has already been with this organization prior to coming to Hawaii, so she's well connected there, and she's very knowledgeable on oversight. But everybody asks the question, what is oversight? Why do we need it? All the answers are there. So just want to uplift that website, and we're going to be putting a link on our website as well so that you can get to it. National Resource Center for Correctional Oversight. And it really helps us because it gives us an academic body of literature that you guys can quote when you're writing in support of the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission. So I just wanted to end with that website for you folks to further your knowledge. And you know, the commission, yeah, the reason why we're here is because of the community. Yeah. I mean, it's the journey that we've been on. What is it, Kat? 25 years, 23 years? You know, It led from committees to task force to commission, and we're still moving. And I think a lot of the people that were here at the beginning of the movement, I'd like to say that you're happy with what you're seeing that the staff is putting out. Because you've been saying it for so long. And it's like, you know, now we're having this thing put out and presented in a manner that, what are they gonna say? You created the commission, they're coming out with this recommendation, what are you doing? Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Enjoy the next holiday seasons coming up, because we're gonna really need you for the battle in January, it's March. And the prayers, you know? So, thank you so much. You guys have a great day.
Aloha.
Aloha.